who has not or wasn't able to join us this evening, that they can catch the recording on the FSGC webpage. And I also want to mention for tonight's session, if you need a certificate of attendance for any reason, just to prove that you have participated in tonight's session, please do put your first and last name down in the chat box, or you could just hit reply to the email that we sent out to you earlier. We want to make sure we get you taken care of and get you the paperwork that you need to submit to whomever you need to submit it to. So once again, tonight's session is helping your child manage ADHD. We are very fortunate tonight to have Dr. Connie Romig, who has a lot of experience working with kids who have ADHD and just a variety of challenges. So I am going to stop talking and turn the floor over to Dr. Romig. Take it away.
Thank you, Pam. Can you hear me, Pam?
Yep.
Just checking.
Yeah. Technology.
Hi, and thanks everybody for coming. Bear with me because I'm kind of working from home, so my computer is lagging just a little bit. So I have my slides and we'll just see how well we can do here. We only have a half an hour, so I'm going to try to touch on some specific strategies for working with your child who has maybe some attention problems, maybe some hyperactivity problems, as you're homeschooling or as they're doing virtual learning, because I know how difficult this is. First and foremost, let's not kid ourselves. Parenting is exhausting. I don't care what kind of kid you have. It's just exhausting, and you need incredible amount of patience and understanding and perseverance. And so I want to remind parents to just be forgiving of yourselves. You know, we can make mistakes. Excuse me. Give yourself a break. Give your kid a break. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to apologize to your kid if you've yelled and you come back later and realize maybe I shouldn't be yelling. It's okay to come back and say, dude, that wasn't okay. I'm sorry, I shouldn't yell like that. You are showing, you're modeling for your child how to apologize and how to be real, and to let him know that you make mistakes too. So a couple things to start off with. First of all, let's maybe I should use my slides since I made them. Right? Did it go? There it goes.
Yep.
Okay, that's just me, blah, blah, blah. So some general things. We want to parent the kid that we have. Graduate school teaches therapists to meet the client where the client is, wherever the client is, where whatever abilities they have, whatever attention span they have, whatever mood issues they have, we meet the client where he or she is. And it goes along with the next bullet point there is we want to set our children up for success. So we want to build on what your kid is doing well. And so when it comes to homeschooling or virtual learning or whatever we're calling it these days, whatever the new normal is, when we're doing that, we want to start off with, well, I would imagine we have to feel out where your child is. If they have lots of, they're a morning kid, my kids happen to be morning kids. They hit those worksheets and get on the apps and stuff, and they run like mad for about an hour, and then they completely run out of steam. So I don't have to prioritize their tasks for them because they're just like, give me whatever and I'll do it. Now, your child may really like math, and maybe he needs to, or she needs to kind of get warmed up with math because that's what they're good at. They feel some We call it a competency surge. They feel really good because they know they can do their math quickly and get something accomplished and feel like they've gotten something done. Other kids may need to start off with the big tasks first, like the more challenging task, simply because they have more energy in the morning. It really depends on your child's strengths. So kind of think about that. What is he or she good at? What would be the most successful way to prioritize their tasks? Setting your kid up for success, we call that scaffolding. We use the word scaffolding, and you probably did this with your when they're little toddlers. When we want to do the least amount possible to help your kid accomplish whatever they're trying to do, because we want them to actually do it, right? So the example I always use is if you had your toddler sitting on your lap and your toddler's reaching for a toy, stretching, reaching, stretching, we want our toddler to feel accomplished. And we do that by, we reach out and we might push the toy just close enough so that the toddler can grab it and feel successful. That's called scaffolding. You want to do the same thing with your kiddos. So even if you're trying to get them to do a chore in the house, like they need to take out the garbage, do they need you to kind of walk them over to the garbage, right? Remind them of the steps, each little step at a time. It's exhausting, I know that, but if you want them to be successful, if you want them to feel the success rather than to be yelling at them all the time, we have to break it down into tinier steps and scaffold it. So, you don't say at breakfast, hey dude, go take out the garbage when you're done, because they're not going to remember 10 minutes later. Heck, my husband wouldn't remember 10 minutes later. So, we want to, right when you want them to take out the garbage, it's time to take out the garbage, go put on your shoes, wait for him to come, he or she to put on her shoes. Great, you got your shoes on. Okay, now it's time to take out the garbage. And then when they come back in, you immediately give them some kind of attention for doing that. Just, hey, good job, or if you did it, go. I've got some kids coming in. So we want to break things down into small steps and do little bumps to help them be successful in each step. A really, really important variable to think about is the difference between can't behaviors and won't behaviors. So, especially kids with ADHD, it is not realistic to expect them to sit for hours doing schoolwork. It's just not, that is a can't behavior. They cannot do that. It's something that they're not really capable of doing. And that's very different from I won't do it, right? So with a can't behavior, we really cannot, as parents, punish them for something that they can't do. So if your kid, the expectation is he's going to sit there for 2 hours, you've already set them up for failure, because you know that a kid who has ADHD, pretty much any kid these days, cannot sit and focus and do work for 2 hours straight. That's just not reasonable. So that's something to really consider is he, when you're facing challenging behavior from your kiddo, whether they have ADHD or not, think, is this a can't behavior or is this a won't behavior? Because if it's a won't behavior, they're being oppositional, right? They're not listening, they're not obeying. That's different from I can't do this. And so we as the adults have to determine, is this something they truly can do? Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? So for kiddos, for our kiddos with ADHD, we want to break things down as much as possible. Give the expectation that they do half of that worksheet. Then they get a brain break. I don't know about you guys, but we did not get brain breaks when we were in school. I don't know what this brain break stuff is, but my kids are taking brain breaks every 15 minutes, it seems like. And we have a list of tasks that they're allowed to do on a brain break. They're allowed to go for a walk or play with their dog or go jump rope or get some physical activity, and I appreciate that, but I never got that stuff. So I don't know. But that, if setting them up for success involves giving them those breaks and then bringing them back, because so you don't change the can't behavior into a won't behavior. We definitely don't want them to just start being oppositional with you. The other thing to think about is we now know that brain development continues into the early 20s. So, you know, school-age children, elementary school-age kids, even high schoolers, their executive functioning is not fully developed. Their cortex isn't fully developed, and that's what we need to regulate behaviors. And sometimes they just need an adult's prefrontal cortex to help them stay regulated. So I know for us, my kiddos work a lot better if I'm sitting beside them. I don't necessarily have to be hovering over them. I'm not, you know, I'm not like helping. I'm not actively telling them what to do, reading the instructions to them. I'm in the room and I'm doing my own work. And I might stop and look and, hey, you're doing it, and then get back to my own work. It's helping them stay focused. I do have a child who has ADHD, and we struggle with this, and I really can't leave him because he will drift off into la la land if I do. A recent thing that I've experienced, I was reading a parenting book, and it was really powerful and thought-provoking to me. And it really changed the way I thought about parenting, is asking myself the question, would I let someone else talk to my child the way I just talked to my child? And I wouldn't. You know, some of the times I'm yelling at my kids, I'm screaming at them to get something done, and I have to stop and think, would I let their teacher talk to them this way? Would I let the neighbor talk to them this way? Would I let a stranger walking down the street talk to them this way? No, I probably wouldn't. So why am I talking to my child this way? And then the other question is, would I talk to someone else's child the way I talk to my child? Or would I talk to my client the way I just talked to my child? And that really isn't fair, that I'm treating my child more poorly than I would treat other children. So that's just a general parenting tip. It really was I was very much struck by that question when I was reading it. So, okay, let's talk about some other specific ways to help them through these challenging times. We want to focus more positive attention on your child. We want to be a cheerleader rather than a nagger. I mean, it does not feel good to me to be a nagger, to nag and yell. It's much easier to have that positive energy than to have that negative energy. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to me. I'm sure it doesn't feel good to my kids. So we want to use that powerful, positive attention. I see this frequently in my office. A kiddo will have played with lots and lots of toys, and this 4-year-old picks up the toys all by himself. I mean, it's amazing. He picks up all the toys, and the parent, caregiver says, "Oh, you cleaned up the toys. Well, you missed some." You know, he picked up 152 Legos and he missed 2. What are we going to focus on? Let's focus on the 152 that he did pick up, right? Because that's pretty phenomenal for a 4-year-old. So we want to avoid those backhanded compliments. You did it, but, oh, you washed the dishes, but these are still dirty. You know, we can show them, hey, buddy, you did it. Here's a way to get that extra crud off or whatever. You know, we want to make sure we're teaching them exactly how we want it done before we start criticizing them. What would you do if your boss just came in and starts saying, hey, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong? You get really frustrated if your boss talked to you that way. So we want to focus on teaching the steps first, and then acknowledging the desired behavior, even if it's not quite perfect, because who's perfect? But we're going to acknowledge the behaviors that they are doing well with. Next thing is playing with your kid. Give them the positive attention, taking a brain break when they're doing that homework. Go toss the ball with them, go walk the dog with them, have some other interactions with them than just being teacher and parent right now. I mean, that's just so, we have to have some fun with them too. I have talked to several children who they just cry out of frustration. I just want to go to school, because it is confusing that now suddenly dad is my math teacher, and it's confusing the roles. They should, I don't do all this work at home. It's very confusing and frustrating for kids. And so let's give them some fun time too during those breaks, and get outside, get some fresh air. If a kiddo is getting really, really frustrated with a topic, that would be a great time to take a break. It's not worth trying to push through. It's like, okay, this isn't right now. We need to take a little bit of a break. We're going to go outside. We're going to walk around the house 6 times, and then we're going to come back in and tackle it again. Let's see. I already talked about that. Playing with your kids. I did that. Catch them being good. Yes. Notice what your child is doing and comment on what they're doing well immediately. We don't want to wait. As adults, we know we get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and that's our reward. And our brains are a little bit more developed. We are able to kind of understand that paycheck covers the last 2 weeks. We can't do that with our kids. They need almost immediate attention for doing something well. And so, they get that math problem right. You did it. That's so great. They finish a whole worksheet. Yay, we finished that one. Check it off the list. And be specific about what you see. I see how hard you're trying. So many of us, so many adults just get so worried about what kind of grades they're bringing home. And I don't know about you all, but in my school that my kids go to, we don't have grades. We do like meet standards, on track. It's not really grades just yet. They're still in elementary school. And so grade, it doesn't really matter. So I like that, because I'm not focusing on, are they getting A's? Are they getting straight A's? Instead, I can say, like they bring home a spelling test and they get 2 wrong or 5 wrong or whatever. And I can focus more on, hey, I know how hard you studied for that spelling test. And maybe we need to do it a different way. Maybe we need to study a different way if they're not getting the results that you expect. If they have worked really, really hard and have studied really, really hard, we want to acknowledge that. But if they're not getting the results that you expect from practicing those words for so long, we might need to take a different approach. And that might be writing them instead of saying them out loud, or using refrigerator magnets to spell them out on the refrigerator or the magnet board rather than spelling them out loud. But we want to focus on their efforts, because that's what's going to help them persevere. That's what's going to help them want to come back and try harder next time. All right. More principles. Your powerful attention is going to help gain compliance. We want to catch them being good. We want to know, notice the behaviors you want to see more of. Whatever you shine your flashlight on, or your spotlight on, that's what you're going to get more of. If you, it sounds really counterintuitive, but if you're giving lots of attention for undesirable behaviors, you actually tend to get more undesirable behaviors. What we teach at in parenting class or in sessions, parents, I'm a parent, I do it too. No, stop, don't, no, stop, don't. What we really need to focus on is the specific behavior we want to see. Instead of stop doing that, we want to say, please do X, as opposed to stop doing Y. We want to focus on the positive behaviors. We also want to focus on one behavior at a time if you need to. Obviously, your kiddo, we can't expect them to change all their behaviors all at once. We can't expect them to be perfect all the time. So if getting up in the morning is the tough part, we want to create the steps, teach them those steps, tell them what the expectation is, we can create a morning schedule that they check off. There's lots of ways we can approach that, but it's step by step, getting that behavior under control until he gets used to the routine and does it without a lot of fighting. Let's see, we have a few more minutes. We'll talk about this a little bit. We want to give, as parents, we want to give more effective commands. First, I don't know about you all, but sometimes I am just driven to the extreme and I say crazy things like, if you guys don't stop fighting, you're going to be grounded for 2 months. We really need, as the adults, we need to think about, can I really follow through on whatever it is I'm saying? You know, for example, the other extreme might be, you know, if you read 20 books this summer, I will pay you $1,000. That's not realistic either, right? That's the other extreme. So positive or negative. We want to focus on what is realistic, what can we actually follow through on. A command is a command, it's not a question. And lots of caregivers struggle with this one too. We need to make a statement. We don't ask a question. Instead of saying, can you do your homework? We need to say, it's time to do your homework, rather than do your homework, right? It's time to do your homework. How can I help? If you ask a question, can you do your homework? They could say no. You've given them the opportunity to say no. And it really isn't a question. They don't really have a choice. It's time to do your homework. We want to focus on giving one command at a time, especially with kids who have attention issues. We can't be saying, do your math, then do your spelling, then take a break, then take out the garbage, and then go feed the dogs. We have to focus on one thing at a time, right? It's time to do your math sheet. What do you need to do your math? In our house, we do a lot of, especially in the morning routine, we've moved away from telling them what they need to do, and we're moving more towards prompting them by saying, what comes next? So they've eaten breakfast, and they're kind of fiddle-farting around, you know how those squirrely boys are, and we'll say, okay, what's next? As opposed to, get ready, we gotta go! So they know that, okay, we finished breakfast, we gotta go brush our teeth, and they come up with what comes next, as opposed to me telling them. A great way to make sure that they're listening is have your child repeat the command back to you. Okay, what are you supposed to be doing? Oh, putting on my shoes. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go put on my shoes. Obviously, we need to reduce as many distractions as possible. We got to shut off as many screens as possible. These iPads, I don't know about you all, but ours, they can get on YouTube and stuff from their school iPads, and it makes me crazy. I leave the room and they're watching YouTube suddenly. But we can shut off other screens. I don't know if you can see this. This is a little like a science fair board. I bought this at Walmart for about $3. It's like a display board, and I have a family who has like 4 or 5 kids. They all sit at the dining room table. All of these children, each of these have one of these that they sit behind, to reduce the distraction of the other kids around them, even though they're within touching distance of each other. And it actually works for those kids. And several of those kids have ADHD. So it's really interesting. And if you don't want to spend a couple bucks on a piece of cardboard, you could probably make one out of a cardboard box. Using visual cues. Some of our kids with ADHD, just hearing it isn't enough. They also need to see it. And I love having checklists and to-do lists. Each of my kids has at the Dollar Tree, I got a little whiteboard for them, and whatever they're working on, I write it on their whiteboard. So it's right in front of them. That's what they're working on. And when that's done, we take that, erase it, and they put the next assignment up there. So it's one assignment at a time. Some kids work really, really well with setting timers. So let's see how much of this, let's see how many you can get correct in this amount of time. So it's not just getting it done to get it done. It's I'm going to do it right and get them correct within a reasonable amount of time. Okay, I have this worksheet. It probably will take 15 minutes. I'm going to set the timer for 20 minutes for this kid and see how much they can get done within that amount of time. We are just about out of time. I have other suggestions, but I wanted to offer opportunity to ask some questions if anybody has any questions.
And Connie, do you want them to type the question in the chat box or?
Whatever people are comfortable with.
Okay. So I've got my chat box open here. Or if you want to unmute, and if you can't unmute for some reason, drop me a message in the chat box. This is all a learning experience still with the technology.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. How do I deal with my ADHD child fighting with her younger siblings and always yelling at them?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
One thing, we've gone through that phase too. One thing I use with lots of my families is we have, because obviously yelling at her is showing her that it's okay to yell, right? You're just kind of reinforcing those behaviors because you're saying stop, and she's mother henning them or whatever she's doing, trying to tell them what to do. So what we've done is for many families, we've done a communal pom-pom jar where the kids get reinforced, and everybody is working on the same jar. So we put a pom-pom in the jar when we catch them being kind to each other, when they catch them using nice words with one another. And you can use this with all ages. So if she brings the little one her shoes, oh, I saw you do that. You were kind to your little sister. We put a pom-pom in the jar. And then when the pom-pom jar gets full, and let's make it realistic, make it a realistic pom-pom jar. And then you can identify some specific things that you can do with the kids. It does not have to be expensive. It shouldn't be expensive. It can be, we're going to go get a little ice cream cone. We can go watch a movie. You get to pick the movie this week. Or we can get a new movie from Netflix. I don't know, whatever. But to make it inexpensive, but rewarding, and everybody's working on the same goal.
Okay, great question. Another question came in. What do you suggest to help with the morning routine? We struggle with the constant getting off task. She doesn't rush until she already runs out of time. Oh, do I remember those days with my son?
I actually learned this from one of my moms, one of my clients' parents. She has an app in her phone that she can set up multiple alarms. And so at a certain time that they have to be dressed, at a certain time they have to be done with breakfast. And if they aren't done with those, you know, they miss out. They basically don't eat breakfast. But this way you're setting shorter deadlines, as opposed to I imagine she's fiddle farting or dilly dallying or whatever you like to call it. If you say you have to be dressed by this time, will she fiddle fart up until that time and then quickly get dressed? And then will she fiddle fart and then quickly eat her breakfast? You know, if you set those deadlines, multiple deadlines, and if the alarm goes off, she better hurry up and eat it. And, you know, she better hurry up and brush her teeth. That has worked for one of my clients' families.
Okay, great. So, Dr. Romig, how do you deal with the won't behavior, the adamant no when they're asked to do something?
Well, first, I don't ask, right? We don't ask them to do something because then they can say no. What we want to do is we are giving better commands, and a command does not have to be, you know, like when we give our dog a command, it's sit. We don't have to talk to our kids like that. We want to say, instead of saying, instead of saying, can you do your math homework? It's, okay, it's time to do your math homework. What do you need? What do you need to get it done? I'm just not, I know you're all going to think I'm like this touchy-feely, hippy-dippy person, but punishment just doesn't work in the long run. And it makes you as a parent feel bad. I'd much rather, you know, set the expectation. This is what we expect. We need to get this done. How can I help? And just see if they will, you know, if they're going to try, what do you need to get this done? If they're just adamantly not, they may need to be on a token economy system where they're getting rewarded for the behaviors right away. So they do a math problem, you put a button in a jar. They do another math problem, you put a button in a jar, you know, and then when they're all done with their that math sheet, they get a snack of their choice. I mean, they may need to do a token system like that.
Okay, and she followed up with, even if they are being told to do a specific thing. So I think that hits that. Okay. We have a couple more questions that just popped up. So when my child is worked up, example, when other kids are playing with their stuff and they are in full meltdown mode, is sending them to their room and telling them to take a few minutes to calm down, then join us when they are ready. Is that a good strategy or no? And what do you suggest in that moment?
I say it depends, because every kid is different. Some kids do need to move away from other people to get, you know, kind of reduce the stimulation, kind of gain their composure back. Other kids need a time in. They need to be closer to their adult. They need your frontal cortex. And so I just really like what one professional says. Her name's Tina Payne Bryson, and she actually wrote, written a series of books that we use for our 8-week parenting class. The first one's called Whole Brain Child. She said, you know, sometimes all your kid needs in those moments is for you to get down on their level and say, I'm right here. I hear ya. I'm right here. So your kiddo may need to be closer to you for that break. And that's okay. I mean, can you take a break with that kiddo? That would be great, you know, to help them kind of get their composure back. There's all kinds of things popping up on my phone. Sorry. What I don't like, there's one type of parenting strategy out there that actually says the phrase, you need to go to your room until you can be sweet. And I do not like that, because that's indicating to your child that you can't tolerate them when they're at their worst. And basically you only want them when they're nice. And that's not a great message, I don't think. So hearing them, connecting with them, God, that is frustrating. What can I do to help? How about you sit with me? Let's go on the back porch and take a few breaths. One thing I've been talking to my 5th grader a lot about, when he's getting really, really frustrated about something, I get close to him and I'll say, we can do hard things. We can do hard things. And we take breaths together, and we can do hard things.
Okay. There's a question, is there a specific place to have an evaluation done for ADHD? This person, I think, may have had to jump off of the call, but do you want to talk just real briefly about kind of process for if someone feels like they might need to take a next step?
Absolutely. So if you're feeling like you're needing additional support, whether you want more behavioral strategies, you want to consider possible medication, which we are not pill pushers at all, but that's an option that we have at our agency. You would call our main number. It's 232-5005, and you'd ask for admissions, and they would they take your basic information, what you're looking for, some insurance information, some background information. They'd set you up with one of our clinicians. One of our clinicians would then, you'd be scheduled, you'd come in, meet with one of our clinicians, and that person would then gather your information, kind of get the background story, how is this challenging for you, just determine if a diagnosis is there, and then they can start you off with some family therapy to specifically address these kind of behaviors. We also offer that 8-week parenting class. It's called Parenting Because Kids Don't Come with Instruction Booklets, or something like that. Our next one is starting October 6th, and it is free to the community. And if you are interested, Pam, I don't know, do you have the link for that?
I tell you what.
Jim just sent it.
What's that?
Jim just sent it to me. I don't think I can access it.
I will, while you're answering this last question, I think we have time for one more. I will find it, and then I'll put it in the chat box. How's that?
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So final question. These have been great questions. I hope you guys are feeling good and getting some good useful tips, because that's the whole goal here for you tonight. Last question is, okay, any tips on how to get my ADHD kiddo to sit still through Zoom? He's constantly making faces in the camera, laying his head on the desk, getting up from the chair, pointing out other kids who are misbehaving, etc. If I had to bet, I cannot, my son is in college now, but I bet pretty much every parent has dealt with this. But give them some ideas, give them some tips on that one. Boy.
First of all, I would talk to the teacher about what is the expectation. What is the expectation? Does the teacher expect that kid, all the kids, to sit there? Okay, they have not seen their friends for 5 months, right? Several months now. Does the teacher is the expectation that child, that all of these children are going to sit and pay attention through all of this? Definitely clarify what is the expectation. And then I would talk to the teacher, email that teacher, communicate with your child's teacher, and say, look, he is going to disrupt everybody else. can we get on for 5 minutes and get what we need and him say hello, and then we get off so that he can be successful. He can complete that 5 minutes successfully or 2 minutes successfully or whatever it is. Is there some way to, it's like running a marathon. You wouldn't go out tomorrow and just run 26 miles, right? You would start slowly and build up to it. This is a can't behavior. They can't sit still. They are distracted by all of their friends. All of their friends' faces are there and they're super excited to see everybody. And it's such a distractible situation. So maybe talking to the teacher about, I think this week we're going to try for 5 minutes and then I'm going to take him off because I want him to have a successful interaction with people in his class. And yay, you did it. Then stop, no, don't, stop, no, don't, stop, no, don't. We want, sit down, sit down, sit down, sit down. We really just want him to have 5 good minutes as opposed to trying to force him to sit for 20 minutes. That's not going to work. So talking to the teacher would be a great starting point. What is the expectation and can we kind of build on it? Can we start with 5 minutes? Can we add another minute or 2? Can we stretch those muscles? Try to see if he's capable of sitting a little bit longer next time and practice that. We're going to practice sitting for 5 minutes.
Very good. Very good.
Great questions.
Yeah.
I think lots and lots of folks are experiencing these same things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think I found the link. So I'm just typing it in here. And Connie, this is an 8-week, the parenting class you were talking about, it's an 8-week long course, right?
Correct. It is 8 weeks. It meets via Zoom. Usually it's on, this time it's going to be on Tuesdays. So it starts October 6th from 5:30 to 7. It's completely free and it's learning. The approach is using how do I strengthen my relationship with my child so that they are more compliant, so they're more willing to do the things that I'm asking them to do or telling them to do. And the book is called Whole Brain Child. And if you sign up for the class and you attend the class, you actually get a copy of the book for free.
Excellent. Okay. And Nicole, I know I just saw your question. I will add your name to the list so we get you a certificate emailed out tomorrow for attending this class. And if there's a question, I'm going to go through, if we ran out of time for your question, I will send these to, there aren't a ton.
Okay.
But is that okay if I send those to you, Connie?
Sure.
Okay. And then we'll get that information sent back out to you. And I just realized that I didn't send the link to everyone. So I'm doing that here as we speak. And just a reminder, so the recording of tonight's workshop, as well as the PowerPoint slides, will be posted on the website, FSGC's website. It is fsgctopeka.com. And there's a button that it's blue and it says Parenting Resources. If you click that, after noon tomorrow, this information will be posted. So, if you know anybody, you have friends, other parents or caregivers who are struggling and just weren't able to make it tonight, feel free to share this information. We want to make this as useful as possible to the community, because again, our hats off to you all as parents. We know you're juggling a ton, and this is the least we can do to help you out. So Alicia, I see your note here. I've just added your name to that list. And we'll send out a follow-up email, and maybe we'll include that link to the 8-week parenting course. that way you have that just in case when we click off, if you didn't have a chance to get that. So Connie, anything else? Any parting words?
I have to go deal with my ADHD husband and children. So good
Fair
luck.
enough. Fair enough.
We're here
Connie,
for you.
thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks everyone for joining us this evening. Take good care. Bye-bye. Nice job, Connie.
Okay.
Oh, my.